Hey everyone, welcome to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. This is the podcast where the only requirement to be a guest is that you are being authentic to who you are. If you're not, I'll shut it down and I'll ask you to leave. Remember, be authentic or get the fuck out. Hey everybody, Eric Oberembt here, Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out podcast. Today is going to be a little bit different. Last week we had Paul Reed on and we talked about roofers in recovery and we kind of told our story a little bit, and I had a lot of really good feedback from that, and I really enjoyed that podcast. And we've got some really good guests lined up. I've reached out to a few different people that have committed to either coming in or jumping on the podcast virtually. So just to kind of tease that a little bit, I have gotten Kim Reed to commit whenever she comes into town to see her grandbaby. I've got Pate Smith flying in, I think in 2 weeks. We're going to film in studio with him. I also have Phil Sanov has committed, and Phil, I shouldn't say this because I don't think he's 100% committed in case he has a trial, but I think Phil Sanov is going to come in next Friday, if I'm not mistaken, next Saturday, and film. So that's exciting. I know that I also have commitments, just not dates, from Nathan Thibodeau at Contractor Coach Pro, and I've also got a commitment from Hunter Ballou over at RoofCon, and also Diego from RoofCon. I'm excited to hear Diego's story. He works a lot behind the scenes and doesn't get the opportunity maybe to tell his story as often as he should. And I'm excited to have Diego on as well. So that's just a few of the people that I have spoke to that have committed to being on the podcast. And I'm super excited that they're willing to come on and share their story a little bit. So today, we didn't want to wait another week to do another one. So I decided, fuck it. I'm just going to come on alone, and I'm going to tell a little bit about my story, and talk a little bit about the first presentation that I ever did back at RoofCon 2020, RoofCon 2020 or 21. I don't know. It was in January of 21. So I guess it would have been this year. But did my first speech on authenticity for Sam Taggart's event out there at D2D Con. I think it was in Salt Lake. They're always in Salt Lake. So that's kind of the intention behind today. We're not going to go super long today, so please hang on. I would love, everybody to be able to stay until the end. I try to keep these intentionally to a time frame so that people don't dip out. Because, what's the point if everybody's dipping out in the middle of it? Because we get to the meat and potatoes usually towards the end. So okay. So what I want to talk about first is when I did my first presentation on leading with authenticity, the first thing that I did was that I asked the group to everybody to stop. There was maybe 150 people in the crowd. And I asked them if they would stop and write down 3 things that if they wrote down that they felt like they had to hide from people, because they would be judged on that thing. So if you're watching this right now, take 2 seconds, write something down. Write something down that you feel a little bit uncomfortable about yourself because you think that, you might be judged if you told somebody about it, or, there'd be some kind of a weird, awkward issue, pause, whatever, right? So take a second, write that down, think about it. You're thinking about it now. You're not even writing it down. I know you're not writing it down because nobody writes shit down anymore, but you're thinking about it. So what I did during that thing was that I told mine, and mine was that I've grown up my entire life having body image issues. My whole life. As a kid, growing up, I was always kind of the chunky fat kid. I played sports, all through middle school, high school, and was a pretty good athlete. and I still had body image issues, and I was in good shape. I mean, I played baseball, I played football, I played a bunch of different sports. And again, I wasn't the guy that didn't play. I mean, I started, I won awards, I did all that shit. But I always had these body image issues my whole life. And as I got older, I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day. I was in like decent shape, I think, until I was probably about 24, I want to say. I think that was about as long as I stayed in decent shape, 24, maybe 25. That was when I started, regaining a lot of the weight from post, athletics, and kind of went on a journey of heavy drugs and alcohol use, mostly alcohol. Back then, when I got into my late 20s, early 30s was probably when I found, or late 20s is when I found cocaine. That was definitely when I found cocaine. And somehow I became I was the fat guy that did cocaine. I was the 310-pound guy that did a bunch of blow and drank every day. So that was really weird. But because of all of that, I went on every crazy diet that you can think of. And then I ended up losing 100 pounds between 2011 maybe, and 2012. It took about a year. And I lost all this weight, and I still felt uncomfortable in my own skin. And a lot of that went back to my drinking and drug use as well, and my alcoholism and addiction issues. I never, ever, ever felt comfortable in my own skin. This is starting to feel like a therapy session. Holy shit. But so never felt comfortable in my own skin. And that was definitely one of the reasons that I drank so much, and that I, found drugs so appealing. And so I lost all that weight, and I thought to myself, if I lost all the weight, I was going to feel better about myself now. Well, that wasn't true. So then, and this is something that not a lot of people know, like really close friends of mine, but fuck it, I'm going to be authentic today. I ended up having a couple of different surgeries to remove all of that excess skin that I had from losing all the weight, because I was never going to be able to get rid of it. It wasn't a thing where, like, diets and working out, because I was working out, 6 days a week, was ever going to get rid of that loose skin. It was just there. It was there forever. And so I went under the knife and went through probably the most excruciating pain that I have ever been a part of, where I was locked in my house for like 6 weeks because I couldn't walk. Some of you watching this might remember that. I know Tim does, because he ended up coming to my house, and we'd have sales meetings, and I'd have fucking bags hanging off of me, like drip tubes or whatever, when all the shit comes out of you. It was absolutely disgusting. But we would literally have sales meetings during that time, so we could make sure that everybody was still working on the path that they needed to go down. So that's kind of, I like to give one of my things. It's like super uncomfortable, because that is definitely something that I didn't want to talk about, because it gave me the feeling that I was never good enough. I was never good enough to be with someone. I was never good enough to be part of something. Never felt good enough that I was, able to lead, right? To be a leader, to lead other people down a path. Like, who the fuck was I to think I could do that when, every day I woke up worrying about what I looked like, when I looked in the mirror. So, that's kind of one of my things. Today, to kind of dip into my story a little bit, I'm going to just open my phone. Sorry, just because I got some notes here so I don't forget shit. But, today I'm coming up on 12 years of being a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. I spent some time in jail. I've had 4 DUIs. My last DUI was a 4th offense felony DUI. And somehow I ended up not getting years in jail, as I had I had a lot of drugs on me that night, ended up selling a lot of it, and didn't have anything left in my in my truck that night, I remember. But when I got pulled over, I had blow in my pocket, enough to get sent up for a while, and cop didn't find it. And when I got to the precinct, I pulled the old, hey, I need to take a piss trick, and was able to flush it right before they booked me. Otherwise, I could still be in jail. I was looking at 1 to 5 years in prison. That was scary. My attorney at the time, who was a very good friend of mine, suggested that I go to a rehab facility. And we talked about this last time in the last podcast with Paul. But I ended up going to Valley Hope in O'Neill, Nebraska for a 30-day rehab program. And I went there, and I definitely did not want to be there, but I definitely didn't want to go to prison because I was looking at 1 to 5 years in prison, and I don't think I would have done very well in prison. So I decided that I could do math, and the math told me do 30 days in rehab, don't do 1 to 5 years in prison. 30 days seemed like a better deal. But I didn't really have any intention of going up there and like really changing anything about who I was. It was really more of a, get out of this situation, type thing, right? I'll go pay $10,000 to get out of a situation, hopefully. Luckily, after being up there for a little while, I had kind of had one of those epiphanies that a lot of us talk about in the recovery space, in that I needed to be there. And clearly I had a problem because normal people don't go to rehab, right? Like you don't go to rehab if you got your shit together. And so I kind of figured out that I didn't have my shit together, and maybe I needed to honestly shut the fuck up and listen for a little bit. That's something that, I feel like we have to say more than we should is, sometimes we just need to shut the fuck up and listen. We don't know everything. If you're watching this and you think you know everything, you fucking don't. You're full of shit. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. None of us do. We're always learning. So I got that last DUI. I went to jail. I did get sentenced for 90 days in jail. I did not enjoy that very much. I was there long enough, however, and I told this story at D2D Con. I was there long enough to get commissary. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, if you are in jail long enough, you get the opportunity to buy your own shit, buy some food, buy some soap. And so you'd buy your ramen and your cheese and your, whatever the hell else you'd buy. And if you're there long enough and you wanted to eat with other people in the mod, you would have to, this was the scariest fucking part, you had to steal a trash bag out of one of the big trash cans, which I assume can get you thrown in the hole because, you can't just steal shit in jail. But so one of the, head dudes in the mod came up and was like, hey, you need to go steal the trash can if you want fucking jail burritos. And I'm like, oh, well, I really want a jail burrito. I'm fat and I'm hungry. I need jail burritos. And so, so I stole the trash bag and I ordered my cheese and I ordered my tortillas. So you would take stuff and you would give it to the head guy in charge in your mod, and everybody would throw their shit into the pile, into that trash bag that they cut it open, and they just do one of those and shake it. They'd shake it up, and then you'd take your tortilla and you'd take your Kool-Aid cup. Everybody gets a Kool-Aid cup if you don't know that. You get a cup to drink your water and your Kool-Aid during the day, but it also acted as a shovel, apparently, and you would shovel the shit out of the trash bag and put it in your tortilla and eat your tortilla. Now, let me tell you, those are the best goddamn burritos you've ever had in your life when you're sitting in jail. And when you go home, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot reinvent the jail burrito. If you go to the store and you go buy shit that is supposed to be exactly the same to reinvent the jail burrito, every single time it will be garbage. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the jail cheese or if it's the jail ramen or what it is that makes the jail burrito so good, or if it's just the fact that you're in jail and you've been eating fucking stale cornbread for, 2 weeks. But you cannot reinvent the jail burrito. So what I learned from all of that was, for so long, I was not a great person. It's kind of an ongoing joke that Paula and I have together, is that every year on our sobriety birthdays, we call each other, and instead of saying happy birthday, we just tell each other, hey, congratulations on not being a piece of shit anymore. Because in my mind, like, that's what I did. Everybody comes up and congratulates you, like, oh, good job being sober. It's like, yeah. But really what I'm doing is, like, I'm being a good human. I'm being who I was supposed to be. I don't really feel like I deserve congratulations for some shit like that. So that's kind of an ongoing joke that, that we in the recovery community kind of get. But I was a horrible son, grandson, brother, I was a horrible fucking leader. I was a horrible friend, for sure. I was a garbage friend to a lot of people that cared about me a lot. I didn't think about anybody but me. I only thought about how a situation would directly affect me. I never gave a shit about how anything affected other people. Never. As far as I was concerned, nobody else really existed. Unless you had something that could benefit me, then you existed. Whether it was money, drugs, booze, women, whatever it was, that was the only thing that I would tap into to really give a shit that you were there, right? But I was definitely never there to help others. I was never there to help others. It's really crazy when I think back at how much my life has changed in that regard. So why do I tell you all these stories? I tell you all these stories, and it's not for sympathy. It's not for recognition. It's not for, anything like that. It's to show you what I think authenticity looks like. I think that being authentic is telling people who you are, where you came from, what your story is, because at the end of the day, those people get to inspire and lead others because others are going to believe what they say. I think that authenticity leads you or lends you to being seen as that honest person. And one of the things when I did my first authenticity speeches is that I broke down the 3 things. How are we doing on time, Lexi? We're good? Okay. All right. I just wanted to check. I didn't want to go too long. But so there's 3 things that I think encapsulate what authenticity means. Okay. And I wrote them down here so I don't forget what they are, but they're honesty, humility, and accountability. Okay. I think those are the 3 pillars of being authentic, right? So, and being honest, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? To me, it means being honest to who I am, right? To my core. What do I actually believe in, right? What are my values? What's important to me? Is that family? Is it spirituality? To me, as I've grown and gotten older throughout the years, I think it's got a lot to do with owning my own shit and owning the stuff that I fucked up in the past. I think that that's where a lot of people struggle is owning their past, not letting it define them, but letting it lead them to the path that they want to go down. Is it how you treat other people? Being honest, right? In business, if you fuck something up, do you make it right no matter what, even if it costs you money, especially if it costs you money, not even if, especially, right? Do you fix it every time? And again, I'm talking from the roofing space, and I'm sure a lot of the people watching today are in that same, business space in the roofing. But for those of you that aren't, if you fuck something up, do you own it? Do you take ownership of your mistakes? To me, that's being honest, that's having integrity, and that's being authentic. I have like 9 fucking paragraphs that I wrote on being honest, but I think that is, I think that kind of sums it up. So I think that one of the most important pillars of authenticity is definitely humility and being humble, right? There are so many people that need to work on this one, right? We all know that guy. We all know that guy who is in need of that instant gratification on social media and has to make those posts all the time of, look at me, right? It's always a dick measuring contest in some sort. And also, I do understand the irony behind the fact that I am calling out humility and somebody that says, look at me on social media, when I'm literally making a fucking podcast that is going out onto social media and people are looking at me. However, the difference, I think, I hope, is that I'm not doing this to say, look at me, look how fucking awesome I am. I'm doing this in the hopes that other people will watch this and gain something from it and be able to implement it into their lives and become better people and become who they're supposed to be. I don't gain anything monetarily from this. Gain, I lose. All I do is pay money to do this. I don't have sponsors. That being said, if somebody wants to be a sponsor, though, I will accept sponsors. But I don't have sponsors. I don't have endorsements. I don't have any of that shit. I literally do this because I do give a shit about what happens to people. And a lot of that was inspired from owning my company and watching the people grow around me in the space and in the company, and seeing how I would get to lead and change their lives a little bit on such a micro level, because it's, 15, 20 people here in my office, and I get to directly affect those people in the way that I act. If I'm humble, they're humble. If I'm honest, they're honest. But if I'm not, if I'm the opposite of that, and if I'm dishonest and I'm not humble, they're going to take cues from me and do the same shit that I do. Because they're going to think that it's okay. Well, if Eric does it, then fuck it. It's okay. And so it really taught me a lot. It really taught me a lot about the things that I needed to do on that micro level to lead people here. And as I started getting out into the space a little bit more and meeting more people and networking and going to conferences and getting opportunities to speak and all that kind of stuff, and advising and teaching at the Commercial Roofing Academy and everything else, it made me see that there was such a need for that on a more macro level as well. And again, there are so many other people out there that are doing shit like this already, and I realize that, that are probably way fucking better than me at it. Way better, and been doing it for longer, and like studied it and fucking took classes on it and like learned shit. I am not a school guy. I don't study. I do read now. Sam, that is thanks to you, Taggart. Appreciate that. I do at least read now, but I didn't have anywhere to learn this. So my hope is that if somebody sees this, maybe they relate with me on something different than the 8,000 other fucking podcasts that are out there maybe talking about the same shit. Maybe somebody resonates with me a little bit and they grab that one thing out of it that they're able to implement into their life that they just didn't think about. And it's able to change who they are and how they treat their families and how they raise their kids and how they're more present and all of those kind of things. So sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there a little bit, but I think that's really important. When we get back to humility though, I think that the best analogy that, again, resonates with me so well is one of my old football coaches, Coach Wortman, Elkhorn High, state champs. He dug into our brains that when we score, you score a touchdown, you You walk up to the ref, you hand him the ball. Why? Act like you fucking been there before. Act like you fucking won before. Then you know what you do? You go back, you get the ball again, and you go fucking score again. And then you hand the ball to the ref because you act like you fucking been there before. And then you know what you do? You go get the ball again, and you go fucking score. And then you hand the ball to the ref. Why? Act like you fucking been there before. And I could repeat that for a very long time, but I think that you get the point. Be humble. Act like you fucking been there before. Yeah, celebrate your wins. 100%. I have to admit, I am the worst at that. I am the absolute worst at celebrating my wins. I'm the guy that hates to lose more than he enjoys winning. I say that a lot, but I do. I hate to lose way more than I enjoy winning because I think it's because I expect to win. Because I assume that if I bust my ass and I put the work in, I should win. So when I lose, I'm more pissed off about it. But I'm obviously going to take those losses and I'm going to learn from those losses. And I just realized that was such an anti-Gary Vee thing to say because he fucking loves losing. Fuck that. You hate losing, right? You can appreciate losing and you can use failures so that you can win. But fuck that. I love losing. That's garbage. Nobody likes losing. That's some bullshit. And I love Gary Vee. But I just realized that I hate that he says I love losing. Fuck that. You don't love losing. Champions don't need to show how good they are. You're going to know it by their actions, in the office or on the field or whatever it is. People are going to naturally be drawn to you based on the actions, based on your actions and, how you react to situations. Really by how you react. People are going to follow people based on how they react to situations, right? When some bad shit happens, how do you react? Ask yourself that. How do you react? I'm not going to tell you how. I think we all know how we should, right? I think we all know how we should. All right. So the last pillar of authenticity is accountability. And I think this is what separates the men from the boys. Okay. Are you being accountable to yourself? Are you being accountable to your team? Are you being accountable to your leadership group? Are you being accountable in owning your own shit? And if you say you're going to do something, that you do it, right? And if that can come to personal, it can come to work. It's easy to correlate it to a work situation, especially like in a sales industry like we're in. Are you tracking your KPIs? Right? That's being accountable to yourself and to your team. Because if you're not, what are you doing? You're just out existing. The purpose of us being here is not to just fucking exist. It is to accomplish shit, get shit done. And we're going to be able to get those things done by being authentic. People want to follow authentic people. I 1000% believe that. And it's funny because I never knew any of this stuff until I did. And a lot of it came to me, I've given a couple of shout outs on this call to Sam Taggart over at D2D, but that first retreat that I went to Puerto Vallarta with Sam, and Sam made me sit on a fucking river for 12 hours with no food and a jug of water and a broken ass chair. And you couldn't talk. You couldn't walk anywhere. You had to sit in this 10 by 10 area and you had a notebook and a jug of water. And you laid there from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And all you could do was journal and come up with ideas and how you wanted to change your life, your business, your family, relationships, whatever it was. And that was all I did for 12 hours. And I've got pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of shit written down. And I went through that the other day and I executed every single one of those things that were in that book. The only one that I didn't was move to an island, and COVID fucked all that up. So fuck you, COVID. But I executed everything that was on that list, and it was because of the personal growth and development stuff that I did. So if anybody out there is, and again, I got nothing to fucking sell. Just putting that out there, right? A lot of guys out there doing these podcasts, and at the end of the day, there's a pitch at the end. There's a pitch, there's a catch, there's a, hey, if you liked my shit today, buy this. I got nothing to fucking sell, people. Other than I will suggest to everybody that you go find a mentor, or you go find a group like I did. And I found multiple groups, whether it's with a mind coach or it's some kind of a mastermind group or something. Level the fuck up, get out of your comfort zone, and do some uncomfortable shit so that you can grow as a person and in your business. Because, I mean, why else would you be listening to this? So, all right. Again, I got nothing to sell. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for listening. If you actually made it to the end of this, I don't know how long we went. I think I hit my 30-minute mark pretty close, that I wanted to stay within. But guys, gals, actually, you know what? That's something I want to track. I want to track, and I'm talking to Lexi, I want to track and figure out how many women actually end up listening to this podcast, because I feel like it's not going to be very many, but I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. So when I say guys, I mean guys and gals. Please don't fucking write me hate mail for that. But I hope that you got something out of this. Post some comments in the YouTube channel or on Facebook. Let me know what you thought. If you thought it was shitty, that's great. If you thought it was good, tell me why. Shoot me a direct message, because I want to make this show better and better and better every week. I genuinely do. And I will only be able to do that with some feedback from you guys. And so please let me know what you thought what we thought we did good here, so that I can double down on that. I'm all about not taking a bunch of time to try and fix my weaknesses. I'll just fucking throw them away, and I like to double down on my strengths. So if there's any feedback that you guys want to give, I'd love to hear it. And thank you again for being here. Thanks again for listening. And as we always close out the podcast, remember, be authentic or get the fuck out.